morning. All right, we're ready for 168 and 169. These are 5 word problems we're going to work through. So if you'll look on page 168, let's get started. All right, so this exercise is going to use a variety of the concepts that you've learned so far this year. So that means it's not going to be all fractions. It's going to be just different things. If you need to refresh your memory about solving story problems, go back to lesson 2 of this book. Well, I don't remember even going over that, but I think it's when you do a word problem, there's several steps that you do. The first step you do is read the problem. The second thing you do is you might have to read it again or even a third time. So read the problem until you understand it. Then your next step is to find the question. What is it they're looking for? What's the question? Then you go back through and you kind of look for clue words or clue phrases like altogether or how many or what's the difference or something to that effect. Then you do the problem, and the last step is you look at your answer and you think about the question, and you have to determine, does this answer make sense? For instance, if it said Sally had 3 apples and Johnny had 4 apples, how many apples did they have altogether? And let's say you subtracted 4 minus 3 is 1. And you looked at your answer of 1 apple, and then you look back at the question and it says how many they have altogether. And you say, well, wait a minute. If she had 3 and he had, or she had 4 and he had 3, how did they just have 1 altogether? You see what I'm saying? Then you're like, oh wait, my answer didn't make sense. So then you'd redo it and say, oh, okay, they had 7. That makes better sense. So the final step, always look at your answer that you got and look right quick before you go to the next problem. Look at the question and make sure your answer makes sense. A lot of times they won't. I remember when I was in school, my teacher would go, you know, your answer didn't make any sense with the question. And I'd look at it and sure enough, she'd be right. All right, so let's look at number 1. Australia, the beautiful land down under, is actually one of the most dangerous places on earth. If you aren't careful while out on one of your walkabouts, you could step on one, because 1 is all it takes. Of the continent's 36 species of venomous spiders. Oh. What's even more creepy, or maybe I should say slithery, are the 20 types of venomous snakes. If you were to write a reduced ratio of the venomous snakes compared to the venomous arachnids, would that scare you? Be brave and write it here. All right, well, this is easy. So we're writing a ratio. A reduced ratio, and it says, let's look back at the question. So if you were to write a reduced ratio of the venomous snakes compared to arachnids, we're going to say S for snakes compared to arachnids. That's what our ratio is going to look like. So that means our number of snakes goes on top, arachnids goes on the bottom. So what's the number for snakes? 20 types of venomous snakes, so 20, and arachnids was 36. So your answer then, I have no idea why I just put a Z, would be to reduce this fraction. All right? So think about a number they have in common, a big number they have in common, because the bigger the number, then the smaller you can reduce it. They don't have 10 or 9 or 8 or 7. They don't have 5. 4. 4. They both have 4. So let's see if that will reduce it down. So if I divide 20 divided by 4, I get, and then this divided by 9 gives me, is that right? No, I'm sorry. 36 divided by 4 gives me 9. I gave you the answer. Now, is this reduced? It can't go any further because 5 and 9 have nothing in common. That's all you do. That's all you did on that one. Okay, so that's the reduced ratio. 5 nines. In other words, for every 5 snakes, for every 5 venomous snakes, you will see 9 venomous spiders. Ugh, I don't want to go there. All right, let's look at that number 2. If you survived the arachnids and the snakes from problem 1, come along with me to see an extremely unusual sight. Rising out of the red sands of the desert, which is aptly named the Red Center, is a whale's back. What is that enormous flat object? It's only a huge rock. Actually, it's the largest rock in the world, which is nothing to scoff at. Uluru is a natural formation in the very heart of this land down under, and it rises 2,831 feet above the desert floor. How would you find out how many inches high this rock is? All right, so let's look back at the question. So how would you find out how many inches high the rock is? Now it shows how many feet above sea level. It's 2,831 feet above sea level. So we got to change feet into inches. Okay, so let's do it this way. We're going to write a proportion. Remember doing a proportion? That's where you have two ratios. All right, so see, 2,831 feet. Okay, now keep in mind that's going to be over 1. Now the reason I wrote it in red is because you're not going to actually, I mean, you can put it, it's not wrong, but it just simply means that anytime you have a whole number and you need it to be in a fraction form, then just put it over 1. All right, now let's go ahead and write the proportion that's equal to this. Now remember, it wants us to have inches. It wants us to figure out how many inches this is. It's this many feet above sea level. It wants us to tell how many inches that is. Now, how many inches are there in a foot? What's the ratio to inches to a foot? You remember? 12 inches to 1 foot, right? Okay, so this is our proportion. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, I can't remember how to teach this to you. All right, so basically, I guess what we're going to do is, that's right, we cross multiply. That's what we do. I keep forgetting, but yes, now we're going to cross multiply. Okay, so 1, wait a minute. Yeah, so 1, let me look in my teacher book. Addie, I'm sorry. I can't remember how this teaches it to you. I've been teaching this to the big kids in pre-algebra, and so I can't remember how this wants me to teach it to you, because I don't think I teach it the same way. I don't want to get you messed up. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. So basically, we just take this many feet and we multiply it by 12 inches, because we could do it cross multiplication. So 2,831 feet times 1 gives you 2,831 feet. Okay? And then 1 times 12 gives you 12. So basically, you're just going to multiply. So it'd be 2,831 times 12. Now, I'm not going to do that calculation for it because I know you can get that. Okay? So if you will go ahead and do this calculation, you're going to get a pretty big answer. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and let you pause it, and then you do that calculation, and I'll tell you if you get it right. Your answer should have been this. $33,972 inches. Got it? Okay. 2 down. Let's look at number 3. It has an A and a B. As of 2012, Australia's population was a little over 22 million people. Write this number in numeric form. So on A, you're just going to write that number, 22 million, just in regular form. Just write it like a number. So you'll do that on A. So go ahead and pause it as you write that number. Now I know I don't have to check that number. I know you got that right. Now on B it says, then find the population of your state and the current population of Australia and write a ratio showing Australia's current population compared to your state. So Australia compared to our state, which would be Texas. Let's see what it is. Current Texas population. 28.3 million. We'll just round it and say 28 million. Okay, so the Texas population would be, we'll just say 28, and you finish it out, 28 million. Now let's look for Australia. $24.6. We'll round that up to 25. So then be 25 million. So write 25 million, write it out, not the word, the number, and 28 million. And that's your proportion, or your ratio, I mean. Because it says write a ratio showing Australia's current population compared to our state. Gosh, Australia's whole population is almost the same as just Texas. All right, good. All right. Let's move on to number 4. If you have a hankering for a boat ride, maybe you'd like to jump in with me and sail from the northeast corner of the continent of Australia out into the Coral Sea. This is where we will see the Great Coral Reef, the largest coral reef system in the entire world. This reef is 1,616 miles in length, and it can be seen from outer space. What is that in Roman numerals? So you go ahead and do that in Roman numerals. Pause it while you do it, and then I'll put the answer up here. Make sure you got it right. Okie dokie. So your Roman numerals should have been this is what yours should have been. That's what you should have gotten. All right. If you don't understand, let me know. Good. All right. Let's look then at number 5, the last one. The Great Coral Reef, an amazing... I wish that rooster would be quiet. The Great Coral Reef, an amazing show of God's creativity, is made up of approximately 2,900 individual reefs and 900 islands. Highlight the word that tells you that the number of reefs and islands is estimated. Now find out how many reefs and islands there are approximately together. So let's see, the word that means it's estimated would be the word approximately. So you can circle it, highlight it, underline it, whatever. All right, then it says, now find out how many reefs and islands there are approximately together. So what does that mean, together? It means you're just going to add 2,900 plus 900. Did you get 3,800? That would have been your estimate. 3,800. Okay, so those story problems were actually very easy. All right, so we're going to be done for today. Tomorrow, and probably for the rest of the week, we're going to work on exercise 7, which is just a big fat review, practice and review. So I'm probably just going to kind of walk over it with you, but we're going to do that the next few days. So we're just going to use this week to finish exercise 7, okay? All right, that's all for today.